Hey guys, what is up? This is Matthew Davis, me once again. Welcome back to another video game review. This time it is going to be on Mouse PI for Hire. In this game, we play as a mouse detective, not the great mouse detective, but a mouse detective named Jack Pepper, played by Troy Baker, as he lives in this cartoon-like world inspired by classic noir as well as classic 1930s cartoons, where he investigates various crimes that go on throughout the game. And this isn't like something on the lines of LA Noire. This is a boomer shooter heavily inspired by classic games like Doom or Wolfenstein 3D, where you shoot your way through various levels of enemies that are coming after you, and you shoot them with all these types of gadgets that you get throughout the game, and you use them up against the enemies while eventually solving the cases that you are going throughout the game. Now, I was always very curious about this game throughout the multiple years that it was announced. I've always seen images of this, the fact that it was a first-person shooter. I was all like, what is this? This looks like my type of game because I love cartoons, I love classic noir, and of course, this isn't the first time a video game would take heavy inspiration from classic cartoons, as easily the first game that pops into mind is games like Cuphead, of course. So picture it like that, but as a first-person shooter and not nearly as difficult, because this has multiple difficulty settings. But yeah, I was always very curious about this one and wasn't sure if it was even going to be released because it was released for many years or announced many years ago, and I was always seeing like images and clips of it, and I was just all like, I want to play this. This looks like a lot of fun. This looks like my cup of tea. So now it is finally out, and I'm glad that I finally got around to playing it. I deeply apologize with the lack of video game reviews I've been doing because I made a lot of video game reviews last year and I've been slacking off on a lot of games. Pokemon Pokopia is one game that I really want to play, and that's been out for a couple months, I believe. And yeah, I've been slacking off on that, and it doesn't help the fact that Pragmata is another game that I really want to play, and that came out like 2 weeks ago. And there's another game coming out called Seros, which I pre-ordered. My copy will be coming in tomorrow as I'm recording this review on Wednesday evening. So, yeah, but I really need to start catching up, so I'm glad that I was able to play through this one because this one cost the least amount of money, and the fact that it was shorter than some of the other ones that were going to be coming out, I figured, yeah, I definitely want to play this because, again, it made me curious, and after playing through it, I'm glad I did. I had so much fun plowing through enemies in this game. It is very unique. I really love the fact that, you know, it combines elements of two classic, forms of media that were popular back in the 30s and 40s, from classic black and white cartoons like Steamboat Willie, which they do make a reference to, as well as a bunch of other classic cartoon franchises that came out in the 30s. And it is done in such a beautiful way. This has the style of something on the lines of, combining 2D characters in a 3D world, something similar on the lines of something like The Amazing World of Gumball, except black and white. So really, this does a great job of capturing its cartoon aesthetics while also combining elements of a 3D world and really making it feel unique when it comes to a graphical perspective of being a love letter to classic noir and also cartoons as well. Because even though it does take heavy inspiration from classic noir, it also takes heavy inspiration from cartoons. I feel it's taking more homage to classic cartoons rather than classic noir, because I feel like that's really its style. Because even though you're investigating throughout the main story, it isn't really something that you do similar to something on the lines like LA Noire. No, this is full-on first-person shooter goodness, and I had a blast with using all these weapons. They're very unique. The sound effects for them are really cool when it comes to, making it feel more cartoony to fit in with its world and its style. And I love the UI. Like, when you hold a weapon in a first-person 3D world, it looks really cool seeing that cartoon part of your body just appear in this 3D world against other enemies with these really cool weapons. There's even a gun in this game called James Gun, which I did not think anybody would ever make that pun, but they did. And yeah, the weapons were really cool. There's like this acid one. There's this one chainsaw one that you get when you play a level that is heavily inspired by Doom, which is literally a hell level. It was just so much fun, even though I didn't see myself using it a whole lot because there isn't too much ammo for it when you're like around the environment, but whatever. I had a fun with so many of the weapons that definitely do feel heavily inspired by cartoons like the dynamite. We see dynamite a lot in cartoons because that's one of the comedic elements of, explosions, whether it be Wile E. Coyote chasing after the Roadrunner or Tom and Jerry using, dynamite. I'm really looking forward to Coyote versus Acme. I'm happy that's finally getting released. But it does a great job paying homage to classic cartoons, and the references, there aren't like too many of them when it comes to classic cartoons, but in terms of the aesthetics, like when characters' skin melts off of their body or they turn to ash, it's done very, very well. And the animation styles of like the characters moving and character interactions, they are done super well, and I absolutely loved the character interactions that I went through when it came to telling me exactly about the person I have to fight or some of their own backstories. It was really cool, and it made for a really fun ride. And I really gotta praise the game's pacing too. This is a very quick moving game. It puts you right into the action like that even when it slows down when it comes to, interacting with the environment a little bit, it never shies away from going back to its first-person shooter gameplay of running and gunning in this boomer shooter that, is heavily inspired by classic first-person shooters, because it really knows how to bring in the fun. I really enjoyed the main protagonist's story arc, even though the story really wasn't anything special, because I feel like it's more on the lines of being stylish rather than, being like fully, like classic noir. But again, it's more on the lines of being a love letter rather than trying to do something new with the formula, because that's not what it's going for. It's a game that knows that it's silly because, again, it is a cartoon. It is fully invested on making you laugh when it comes to its cartoon aesthetics. It does try making you laugh in other ways, but not in the way that you would hope. And that's one of my criticisms with the game, but I'll bring that up in a little bit. Right now, I have so much praise to give this game. Even when it comes to the weapons, you can upgrade them with blueprints that you get. It's not like a customizable feature or anything like that. It's just you get these blueprints, and you have enough of them, you can upgrade your weapons. But some of the weapons have unique features when you press the L2 button, like different like when you use the James gun, it adds in more power. I didn't do that a whole lot, but really, though, the weapons were a lot of fun, and because, I loved games like Doom, and the fact that I was paying homage to that as well, really made for a delightful time. And I love how, when it comes to character models, they move in like a three-dimensional view, and the front side follows you, just like in Doom. So ultimately, it's combining elements of not just classic noir or cartoons, but classic first-person shooters as well. Some of the things about this game that don't fully work for me is some of the writing. While I definitely do feel like there were elements of humor that did work, specifically when it comes to its cartoon aesthetic, one of the biggest things about this game that kind of got repetitive was the one thing that mice tend to talk about, or mice love the most: cheese. And there are a lot of references to cheese throughout the game that didn't really fit in with the writing all that much, specifically when it comes to, bringing in cheese puns, and there are a lot of them.
Care to toss me a cheese crumb? What, like some wacko waving a stale mozzarella stick in front of a bunch of bored middle-aged mice?
'Twas just a little cheese stick on the sidewalk.
What the actual cheese stick?
To grate some parm. Watch the cheese melt.
Stinks worse than blue cheese on a hot day. Preferably over a glass of spicy hot fondue. Yeah, and it reeks worse than the brie I left sitting in the fridge. And then out of the blue cheese, no fondue way. Sweet infinite feta.
It wasn't painful, it just got really repetitive. But thankfully, when it does actually land with the humor that doesn't involve cheese, it definitely landed for me, and I thought there were some nice, little comedic elements. Here's a good example.
Glug, glug, glug. Oh, wait. No, I got the helmet on.
I also really gotta praise Troy Baker's role, because anything the man you put him in, he is bound to be good. Whether it be something serious like The Last of Us, or something goofy like Tales from the Borderlands, or games like this. It goes to show he has fun playing these roles, and I really enjoyed playing as a Jack Pepper, which is also a cheese pun because Jack Pepper, Pepper Jack, you get it. But I get it. They're mice. So ultimately, I can understand why there would be so many references to cheese. Hell, usually one of the things they talk about in the game is fondue, and that's basically like their use of alcohol is just, fondue if it had alcohol in it. I don't know. But again, he knows that, he's playing a noir detective, but he also knows he's playing a cartoon mouse at the same time. So when it comes to the actual logic, of course it's not always going to make sense. But I don't think it's supposed to, because it's more on the lines of being a cartoon and paying homage to that while also paying homage to classic noir. Like when it comes to narrations or character interactions, it's clear that it's going for the root of the style rather than the substance. For a game like this, it's not a bad thing because this isn't a movie or a TV show. All I really wanted was to have fun, and I definitely had fun here. I played this game for 12 hours, and that's how long the average player will take if they want to do everything that the game has to offer, and there isn't too much. Like, there are side quests that you can do. They don't give you, like, a whole lot of rewards. I mean, you do gain a lot of money. I didn't really see myself using it that much because I don't know if the money had much of a purpose other than to get ammo at the store, but I didn't really see myself using currency that much, so I saved up a lot. Another thing you can do when it comes to certain mechanics is lockpicking, similar on the lines to Bethesda RPGs like Fallout or Elder Scrolls, except instead of using a lockpick, you use your tail, which are like these sort of mini games where you have to hit your tail at the right spot while also avoiding spikes. There are a lot of them. Some can be too easy, while a lot of them can be a little too hard. And some can just, if you screw up on one, there are some that you can't even go back to because you messed up on that. There are also some secrets that you can find hidden throughout the game, like secret areas, as well as collectibles in those secret areas. I didn't really see myself wanting to 100% everything because I know that some things are going to be missable, like some of the side quests, but what really made the game for me was the fact that, there is replay value if you do want 100% everything, even if, it doesn't really change a whole lot when it comes to playing through the game again. I feel like the whole point of the aesthetic was paying homage while also being a damn fun game. Because like I said, it's quick. And even though you will be fighting the same enemies over and over, that's the point of boomer shooters. There isn't a whole lot of character variety, but as long as there's a lot of good weapon variety, then yeah, that definitely made up for it. Even the characters too, even though they aren't written fully well because of the cheese puns and jokes, it still doesn't hide the fact that I enjoyed, the characters that, I interacted with in terms of the style of, being classic noir. It was a lot of fun interacting with some of these characters, and I enjoyed doing some of their side jobs because it was just fun interacting with them. I guess if I was to complain about another thing, while it isn't much of a complaint, I feel like, in terms of this being a sort of detective game, there isn't really a whole lot of, detecting in this game in terms of, investigating certain things, because throughout the game, you do end up getting clues, but instead of solving them, you put them on a board and the game automatically solves it for you, and then you just go to the next area you're supposed to go to. That wasn't really much of a complaint, but I felt like it was a little bit of a missed opportunity to add in more elements of feeling like a detective game as well. But at the same time, I didn't expect something like LA Noire, where you have to rely on investigating and figuring out clues if you want to solve the case. Because really what matters the most is the fun that you'll be having fighting these enemies. There are a lot of bosses that you will be taking on. Some are very quirky, some are very bizarre, some of them you would expect for something taking inspiration from classic cartoons, and it was just a lot of fun. Because again, it's a silly take on noir and classic cartoons, but it's mostly focusing on being a classic cartoon in the style of a classic noir-like setting. I was going to say movie, but this is a game. Picture it if it were like a Mickey Mouse investigation cartoon. I'm not sure if there ever was one, probably not, but yeah, it definitely focuses on being a mixture of that, and I think it does an excellent job with doing so, while also providing some very slick, stylish gameplay that I just had a lot of fun going through. And I really gotta praise the fact that it's not a full-price game. A 12-hour game for $30, and I feel like that's absolutely worth it here, and it'll go on sale later down the line as the years pass by, making it worth it even more. that goes to show how much talent was put into the game where, it simply wants to provide a fun gaming experience without feeling like it needs to monetize anything in terms of adding a multiplayer setting where, you can unlock skins by paying. This is not something that, is taking inspiration from like an EA game, but classic single-player games where you can only focus on having a fun time without feeling like anything is missing. And it's a cliche thing to say, but that's what most AAA developers tend to do. But this isn't something that's trying to, be a short campaign where the main focus is on multiplayer like Call of Duty or Battlefield. This isn't trying to add in live service elements. This is strictly a single player game to keep the gamer having a fun time until the credits roll. I just miss when games tend to do this. They're not asking for a hefty price. It's clear a lot of effort and creativity was put into making this game, and ultimately, by the end, I think it is absolutely worth it. If you love classic noir, if you love classic cartoons, this is definitely a must-own, and I highly recommend picking it up. In the end, guys, Mouse P.I. for Hire was an absolute delight from beginning to end. Not everything about it works. There are some opportunities where it could have added in a little bit more to make it feel a little bit on the lines of an investigation game, but not too much. It's one of those games where you can instantly turn your brain off and just have a fun time plowing through enemies with some really unique weapons, while it gives you a very, very fun world full of creativity, fun characters to interact with, a very creative noir-like aesthetic with elements of a classic cartoon that never manages to take itself seriously. It's not asking you to take it seriously. It just wants you to, feel like you're living in the golden days of when things were a lot more simple back then. And yeah, this game managed to deliver on probably not all fronts, but for the most part, I definitely do think it is worth playing through. And chances are, if I play through it again, it'll probably get even better, because some of the nitpicks I do have aren't really like super major, but ultimately for me, I think it ends up being just enough to make me say, hell yeah. I know I said I didn't like the cheese pun, so don't call me a hypocrite, but I had a very good time. So yeah, even though a lot of the complaints are more like nitpicks, I guess there was one section towards the last part of the game where you had to bounce on planes in order to get to the next part, which took like 8 minutes. I hated that section, because if you fall at least one time, then you have to start that part past the 8 minutes that you went to getting close to the end. I didn't like that part. I thought it was a bit tedious, but hey, the skills you get definitely help. Like, there's a hover one, there's a jump one. I know I'm bringing that up after I did my review, but yeah, I still think there's many reasons why this game is definitely worth playing through, and I'm glad that I finally got to play it. Definitely recommend it. So yeah, I'm going to try my best getting more game reviews out as soon as possible. I can't make any promises, but I definitely want to. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and maybe subscribe for more. You can also follow me on Twitter, Instagram, or maybe Blue Sky. Links are in the description. And I'll see you guys later. Word out.